Hello everybody, and greetings to you. Today we're going to start project 19, which is going to be a two-way Y branch, 90-degree exiting from the inlet there. So let's go on and get on into it. The first page is kind of description. It gives you a little bit of a rundown of how the points play a role in designing the arcs there. And then the next page, what we got here is our actual dimensions that we're going to cut the part out to, and then later on we're going to get into the heel as well as the throat, two throat patterns that have to be fabricated. But for this video, I'm just going to focus on the two cheeks, the left and the right cheek for this part. So let's go ahead and get into that next then, and we'll go from there. So first thing I did is I cut out a couple parts. I only cut them to the width. I didn't cut them to the height yet. Doesn't really matter. You can cut them either direction, whichever you want. But in order to determine the width of this, what I did is I looked at my base dimension here. I've got an 8-inch inlet and then a 4-inch radius on each side with an additional 1/2-inch straight section on there. So 8, 4, and 4 was 16. And then with the additional 1/2 on each side, that brought me up to 17 inches in width. And then I also looked at my height there to make certain these were tall enough to do the job. So again, I looked at my 8-inch dimension up here, and that was measured to the inside quarter, so I added an additional quarter on there. And then this radius gave me the 4-inch up here, so we're looking at 12 with a 1/2 and another quarter is 12 3/4 inches in height for this project. So let's go ahead and get into it. This one needs a left and a right, so I've got two parts here, both sides. Either side has any dings or dents in it. It looks pretty good. No marking on them, otherwise I try to put the marking to the inside. So let's get started with that. The first thing I did is I went over to the shear and I cut my length there at 17 inches for both of these. And you can verify, just simply line them up, making certain they fit, which they do. The next thing I'm going to do then is take my base, and I'm going to give myself a base 1/2-inch mark to start off and do the same on each of the edges. So just with my scribe, find the 1/2-inch section there, and we'll mark that across both of these sheets. Means we're making the left and the right at the exact same time. Okay, so what you're looking at here is this is going to be the 8-inch base side, and then it's going to be leaving with 2/8 on the opposite edges there. So let's go ahead and continue on with this little project. The next thing I decided I wanted to do after I had my 1/2-inch pivot point was I figured I would make these first 4-inch radiuses on each side of the sheet. So I'm going to just pull my dividers out. Use a square here or whatever you've got, and we'll set this at 4 inches. Usually a lot of times I'll set it at 1 and 5. The squares are kind of nice because they've got the grooves, the indentation. It's a little easier to hold the dividers. And we'll tighten that down at 4 inches or 1 and 5, and that's going to be a pivot point from the 1/2-inch marks over on the left or the right to the inside radius. So let's do that on both of these. We'll find those marks. And we'll pull those marks up and around. There's one. That's for the left side. Here's for the right side of that left cheek. And then we'll do the right cheek, the left and the right again. Same methods. Okay, we can verify. If I hold it right on the 1 inch, the radius did come up to a 4-inch radius, so that was good. And you can check them all 4 if you like. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move out or make the radius just a 1/4 inch smaller for my lock form, for my easy edge. So I'm going to reduce this dimension by a 1/4 inch. So rather than 1 5 like before, I'm now down to 1 4 3/4 to give me a 3 3/4 inch dimension. If we were to pick it up, it's 3 3/4 and move it to the edge. Alright, so same thing. We're going to start on that exact same half by half crosshair down there. If we can find it back. And we'll strike that arc on all 4 radiuses again. Alright, if we did that correctly, in between the 2 radiuses we should have an 8-inch opening. So if I set it to the inside, comes out 8, and the same on that one, 8 inches right on the button. So that's good. The next thing we need to do is we got to determine where these arcs up here have to be. So we've got where we left off. We need an 8-inch opening from the last radius on up to the mark. Or, if you want to look at it from the edge of the sheet, you've got a 4-inch plus an additional half, so you're looking at 4.5 plus the 8 to the top. So, your preference, how you want to lay that thing out. We just got to find that upper dimension. So, I'll try to do it both different methods. Got our 4.5 and the additional 8. So I'm going to set it on the 12 here and measure up 8 inches. And I'm also going to put an additional 1/4 inch mark on for that lock form. Or if you measured it from the bottom of the sheet, you're looking at 12.5 and 12 3/4. And we'll do the same on this other end. So I'll do this from the other method. So we just got to put a mark at 12.5. And 12 3/4. Now with my big dividers here, again we're going to have our pivots from down here at our 1/2 inch marks. They referred to it as point number 1 out here, and we're going to go all the way up to point number 2, which was the 8-inch inlet opening. So find our mark back here, right there, and we're going to set that right where it belongs. If you can see the scribe mark there, but I'm on my inner 8-inch opening from my 1/2 inch crosshair down here. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to pull that in to start to establish the left hand side of point 3. Which is going to come out about in the middle of the sheet somewhere. Without adjusting it, I'm going to do the same thing just on the other edge of the sheet there. Should line up to our same dimension, the distance there. And we'll pull that one in until we find the center of our mark. And then we'll do the same on this other sheet. So just like I had the previous dimensions, I really don't have to measure it this time, but I'll do it. You should be able to just carry it right across there. But we'll remeasure it. So again, just like the previous project there, I pulled it from my original 4-inch radius up to here has got to be an 8-inch opening. So I set it on my nearest foot mark there, and then I used the red dimension numbers. And then don't forget, like I just did, to add the additional 1/4 inch for the lock form. So again, you shouldn't really have to reset this. You should be able to set it right on the original marks and then strike that into the center of the sheet or the near middle. You can go beyond that direction as well as back the other way. Notice I didn't put any marks out here. I'll measure them later just to verify that the 8-inch works out. The next thing we need to do is we got to have the additional 1/4 inch mark out here for our easy edger. So this time we will loosen it up now that I've got the identical marks transferred to both sheets there. Take my dividers, we'll loosen them up. Set it on there on that 12 3/4 inch mark. And we'll pull those arcs up. Same over here. So there, where they crossed each other, we should have kind of a square box or a small diamond in there. And we'll do the same on the other cheek. All right. With that, we can verify our dimensions. I'll put some marks on here so hopefully you can see this a little bit better, how this came out. These will be my cut marks for you. And then a 1/4 inch in from that will be where I'm going to easy edge those lines. So there's my cut mark. This is my bend mark. Cut and bend both of them on there for you so you can see that. And then we got this diamond here to contend with, which will be just a slit from tip to tail there on those points. Okay, the next thing I want to do is just simply verify my numbers are correct. We should have some 8-inch openings from each one. Hopefully you can see that is up there a little higher. So I'll set it right from inside to inside, 8-inch there. Same here, 8-inch opening. And over here as well. And we got our 8-inch openings right there on the 1/2 inch mark, and I'm sorry I didn't mark that one. That's your bend mark right there. And that one works out too. The next thing then for us to do is cut out the part, and we'll be ready to go. Okay, here I am. We're ready to cut out the part then. I got my tin snips and everything handy here. So we're just going to follow those cut marks, making those radius as smooth as possible using that tin snips. Okay, then I'll do the same on this other part here. Make the same identical piece. We'll flip it over and we'll have our left and right, because they are identical dimensions. Otherwise you would have to make a mirror image of, again, like say if this was an 8-inch inlet and this one over here was a 10-inch, and you'd have to make certain this side was the 10-inch. But this one you got lucky on, they're all 8-inch openings, so no problem there. The next thing we're going to do then is we're going to notch out these cheeks and get it ready for the we'll finish easy edge, taking care of these corners, and we'll be ready to easy edge it. And then don't forget where this corner where they meet, we got to do something with that so we can fold them in the opposite directions for one another. So this one we're just going to slit through it. I suppose you could do a notch too. That would work fine. Say if I took the just the notcher and put that in there, that'd be okay too. Okay, so let's run it through the easy edger next then. And again, I would do this on the other sheet, and then we'll have two of them, the left and the right. But just like many projects prior to this, we get it set up in the easy edger and put that 90-degree bend on there. And now we got to do that outside, which is the most challenging. We'll get back to these here after a little bit. I'll touch them up. But for right now, let's look at this here, putting our 90 on that to get started. And then there's going to be a point where we can't go any further because it'll bottom out against the edge of the machine here. Which is coming up pretty shortly. Right there. So then you just loosen it up, pull it out, and now we got to figure out a method of doing this. So what you can do is you can figure out about where you can put your bend on it. Say like right here in this area, which can be kind of difficult. And get it in there, pull that 90 on there, take it out, get it started, re-snug that up, and then tighten that through, or run it through with your 90-degree. That's method A, which gets you pretty close, or you can just simply turn around on your edger and crank it through backwards. Until it bottoms out on the other side here. And loosen it again. And the last thing for us to do is to finish these last corners up. And you can do that with just your pliers, your needle nose, lineman pliers, just, you know, whatever you have. Bend them up to the 90. Taking time to work them corners so they're nice and smooth. The more time you work with these, the easier the heel and the throat will be to assemble. And then we'll do the same on the other cheek, and we'll have the left and the right cheek complete. So thanks for watching. I'm going to finish the other one here in a little bit, and stand by for part 2, which will be fabricating the heels. So thank you very much. We'll talk to you later.